Hi, it's Chris with Implied Music, and today I want to hack the Axis chords. You really only need to know 4 chords. You keep getting told that, right? You really maybe only need to know 4 chords. We can hack the Axis chords to make them sound fresh, to bring them into our own music. There are a couple of really easy things to do. Let's take a look at them today. Do you know what the Axis chords are? I'm just used to calling them that. It's the 1, 5, 6 minor, 4 progression. And of course, I call them the Axis chords because of the hilarious and educational video from the Axis of Awesome guys. If you haven't seen that, I'm surprised, but you should stop watching this video and go watch that. And it brings up something I think is really important, because I remember when I was a young musician, I would hear a song and my excitement about the song would kind of lead me to the conclusion that the composers had somehow accessed a previously undiscovered mystical combination of harmonies, previously undiscovered, that had just tapped into some like greater truth. And I'd walk over to the guitar or piano and I would play the song or play, something close to the song. And I would realize that what they had done was something like 1, 4, 5, 6, or 1, 5, 6, 4, or those same chords. The primary chords in any key are, as you know, 1, 4, and 5. That's the primary chords in C. The primary chords are the 3 major triads in the major key. And just to add a little color to that, we add the minor 6 chord. There are other solutions. But of course, and look at the screen here, the primary Axis chords are C, G, A minor, and F. And it gives us these roots. C, A minor, F. Well, that bass line is just so powerful. And you probably noticed in my right hand, I wasn't voicing it in root position triads. It sounds a little blocky to just move things around like that. It's not the worst thing in the world. If you're a young player and you're just used to using one hand position, it's not horrible. I would prefer us to invert some of the chords. These are uninverted and they sounds a little clunky, doesn't it? So these are the notes in the C chord. So are those. And that's what I started with. And then these are the notes in the G chord, and those are the same notes. I've inverted the triad. So I can go C to G. It's a beautiful solution. A minor, the A is on top instead of on the bottom. F, the F is in the middle instead of on the bottom. And that's what you heard me play. Now, the great thing about the Axis chords is you can start anywhere. It's a cycle, right? You can start anywhere in the cycle and get a good result. So I call this the cycle 1, where you start on the 1. Cycle 6, where you start on the 6, sounds great too. Here, this is A minor. F, C, G. It sounds like a Green Day song, right? A minor, F, C, and instead of G, I went to E because it sounds like a Green Day song. I couldn't resist that. That's a real Green Day thing. So I went to A minor. It's the relative minor. Now this feels like it's an A minor, doesn't it? Man, I just love that chord progression. It's cycle 6. Sorry, that was a little loud there. I spanked the piano a bit hard. So if there's a cycle 6, well, there must be a cycle 4, starting on the 4 chord, and it's starting on F. F goes to C, C goes to G, G goes to A minor. I'm traveling the pathway, the same pathway. Honestly, it would be a great chord progression, right? If there's a cycle 4, there's a cycle 5. G goes to A minor goes to F, goes to C. it's a good solution. Suddenly we have one chord progression that's generated 4 chord progressions. Well, there are more, obviously. And otherwise I wouldn't be doing this video, you're thinking. Here's my next favorite thing to do. I should put on my glasses so I can read my notes. So this is chord quality exchange. Now, chordal exchange works best when you do a kind of an exchange with something that's close to it. And the obvious thing is the parallel minor. So in this case, I'm in C, and what I've done is exchange the 4 chord, the major chord, with the minor 4 chord. It's so pretty. Chordal exchange. Now, we can do the same thing with a different chord. Let's switch the A chord for A major. It's so bright. It's kind of cinematic. Suddenly all the chords are major. And of course it goes without saying that everything could be minor. C minor, G minor, A flat major because that's in the key, F minor. This is kind of dark and exciting. It's 1, 5, 6, 4 in C minor. I guess you could call it the Axis chords, right? You know, the Axis chords themselves are kind of magical. They suggest key scale, right? And a scale and a key. And so you got instant access to melodic ideas. There are suggestions of melodies that arise out of your chord voicings and stuff like that. But we shouldn't ignore the fact that the bass line can be different from, so far we've had roots in the bass. But let's take this voicing, the one that we did before, and you notice how the top line kind of descends? Well, what if the bass line ascends? That bass line went root, 5th of G, 5th of A minor, root of F. Now, if I voice those chords a little differently and make them ascend, that's C, G, A minor, F, I'm going to have the bass line descend. Root of C, 3rd of G, root of A minor, root of F. And I just want to play that one again because I was talking and it's so beautiful. I just want you to hear it. That alternate bass line idea can be used for inner voices in cello and viola or any inner voice instrument. Here's just another example, and this time I start on the 3rd of C. Yeah, I love counterpoint. I like it when a line moves against a top line, so the melody's moving up, the bass line's moving down, or maybe that's an inner voice, I don't know. And that can be just so delightful, even if the listener doesn't really appreciate it directly, just to have that kind of sense of C to G to A minor. It's just so, A minor over C, right? It's so pretty. Here's an F chord over A. Here's a C chord over G. Here's a G chord over F. For giggles, it's like a G7. Here's an A minor chord over E. Here's an F over D. Here's a C over C. Here's a G over B. Here's an A minor chord over... See how the bass line keeps moving down? Well, thinking about bass lines and surprising notes, for instance, that G chord over F, made me think about slash chords. And of course, a slash chord is when you have, you can think of it as an alternate bass to a chord progression, maybe, or you can think of it as an alternate upper structure triad. And so for the next example, that's how I've pictured it. And I want to remind you what that bass line that we've been using all along is. It's, as you can see here, C, G, well, that bass line is going to work with this set of chords. Those triads are not from the C scale. The first triad is a inverted B flat. And then we've got this beautiful D minor, and then violating the parallel fifth rule, this C major, and then F. Really kind of feels like an F key level, doesn't it? And then we're going to go to another B flat, and we're going to go up to F. So the D minor became an F in this context, and now a D minor, and it resolves to C. So weirdly, I kind of like this chord progression, and if I just used roots, it would sound pretty good. It's kind of like an old early 80s Journey chord progression. But what if we put the bass line from the key of C under it? And beautiful. Oh, I love that effect. My last example, and if you've stuck with me this far, kudos to you. And I'm going to warn you, this one is super powerful and maybe a little hard to follow. So I'm going to show you what I mean first, and then we'll listen to it. So you remember that the progression was C to G, A minor to F, and we gave each chord, let's say 2 beats or 4 beats. Let's call it 1 measure. So if I like this 4-bar cycle or 4-chord cycle, I'm assigning 1 measure to each of the chords, I could rethink the idea and say, I want a 4-chord cycle, but I want to park on the A minor for 2 measures. And now I have the first 4 bars, C, G, A minor, and then another A minor. What's the next chord in the cycle? F, C, G. And I park on that chord for a couple of cycles. What's the next chord in the cycle? A minor, F, C, and I park on that chord for 2 measures. What's the next chord in the cycle? G, A minor, F. Well, the idea that you can take a fragment of the 4-chord cycle, kind of like fragment the syntax of it, it's so powerful, it still works, and create a longer structure by kind of stacking those syntax fragments is a pretty powerful idea. Now, I've written a longer chord progression using that. I didn't just follow it slavishly. So what I've done is 1, 5, 6, 4, 1, 5. And then I started it again. 1, 5, 6, 4, 1. And that sounded like the end of a phrase, so now it's time to start on 6. 6, 4, 1. The next chord in the cycle is 5, 5, 6, 4. The whole thing starts again. 1, 5, 6. The next chord in the cycle is 4, 4, 1, 5, and then it starts again and again. Of course, I sound like I'm Bruce Hornsby the way I'm playing there, but it's a powerful way to get a longer structure. The power of the Axis chords derives from familiarity, but also from the sort of inherent language of diatonic chord structures, right? Those 3 primary chords with the tempering or leavening effect of the 1 minor chord, very powerful emotionally, and just great for suggesting the full context of a scale for writing songs, for writing melodies, adding lyrics, things like that. And you can use that to your advantage. I think the danger with the Axis chords is slavishly following that same progression over and over again. And yet, with a couple of simple hacks, you've got the ability to kind of like blow it out of the water and make it your own in a way that is pretty powerful. Well, I hope this has been useful. Like and subscribe and ding the bell. You'll be notified when I do my videos. And I'll see you next time.